We're doing this obviously for your family, for the Jamestown Bar Association, for the world at large. And one of the things I always like to ask is, tell me about your mom and dad.
Well, my parents are still alive, are still in good health, and they were from Jamestown. They grew up in Jamestown, and I was very blessed because they raised us, my brother and my sister, here in Chautauqua County in Jamestown.
And their names, by the way?
My father is William Piazza. My mother is Ruth Piazza. And it's interesting, as we sit here in your office, Greg, I'm looking right across the street and I'm seeing the ice arena. And my father owned the Jamestown Dental Lab, which was right across the street, where I worked as a young man and came to the realization that I had no skills in that area. And but I spent many years working there, and I'm looking out the window now, and I can see in my mind's eye that used to be the Hemingway Art Gallery.
Sure. Oh my gosh, yeah.
And we had about 20 people working there, and so I spent a lot of time during high school and during college. I used to deliver the teeth. I drove 1,000 miles a week. I drove all around Jamestown. I drove all the way to St. Mary's, Warren, Ridgeway. So I'm looking out that window. A lot of memories are coming back.
So what was your dad's education that led him to that unique niche?
It's interesting how life works, because the path that he started on ultimately led to where I ended up, and it's an interesting story. So, my father, he grew up on Crescent Street, and he ended up marrying my mother. My grandfather had a small dental lab. They worked on, I think, mostly dentures. So my father worked for him for a number of years and learned everything he could learn from my grandfather. And then, do you know where the medicine shop was? Mm-hmm. There was a dental lab there. And that dental lab bought my grandfather's lab and agreed that he would take my father on and my grandfather, and he would teach my father the rest of the process, the crowns and partials, etc. So then he learned every aspect of the business. I can remember as a kid walking in there to go visit him. And then as the years went by, they had a change of ownership, and he decided, I think I can start my own. So he started out in the Roberts building. And it was my father, he had a partner, and he had another employee. There was just 3 of them in the Roberts building. And then as the years went on, he ended up with about 20 employees. He had the Hemingway Art Gallery building. He had drivers. I would drive to Warren, as I told you, Ridgeway, St. Mary's. He had other cars that would go to Fredonia, Dunkirk, other cars that would go to Salamanca. So it was the biggest dental lab in the county.
How did it actually work? I'm visualizing, did they take the dentist take molds and then give them to your dad? It was
interesting. I was the tooth fairy, so to speak. And in town it wasn't technical. Back then there was a blackboard and chalk, and there was so-and-so dentist needs a pickup. That meant they'd taken a wet impression, and you had to go there and get that wet impression. You had to bring it back. It was still wet. It was wrapped in paper towel to keep it moist. And you'd go and you'd get it and you'd bring it back, and then they would have to do certain things to it, pour the molds, etc., while it was still wet. And then you would also be delivering finished products to the dentist as well. So there'd be pickups and there'd be deliveries. And as I said, I was driving 1,000 miles a week when I worked there in the summer. And And as fate would have it, I had no inclination, and I realized had I decided to try to stay in that business, his employees would have done the same thing that he did. They would have said, he doesn't know what he's doing. Not that the other person didn't, but why would we work and make money for someone who really doesn't have the skill for it? So I always had an idea that I wanted to be an attorney. So I had a foray into that, and as I said, there were things that happened that led to other things that opened doors for me. So my father had a partner, and together they built a dental lab. And one of my father's best friends was Doug Spoto.
Ah.
So I knew Doug growing up, and you know Doug as well, and Doug was Doug. And if you didn't know a lot of swear words, if you spent any time with Doug, you learned, and you learned to use them properly. But Doug was the attorney for my father and his partner for the business.
Mm-hmm.
So then, as fate would have it, they ended up having a falling out. And I was in high school at the time. So, of course, Doug couldn't represent either one of them. He was conflicted out. So, Doug told my father, there's this attorney I'm going to send you to. His name is Chuck Hall.
I'll be there.
And Chuck Hall is a great guy. So Chuck was wonderful to my father. And in the end, my father ended up with the business, and his partner, he bought out the partner. It was quite contentious, and I can remember as a young man, I'm in high school, I'm in college, and my father would tell me, and I'm going to choke up a little bit, he'd say, if you ever become an attorney, you've got to become like that Chuck Hall. And my father just had such respect for him, and he really, as far as my father's concerned, he really, really saved him. So at the time when they had their falling out, and there was all the conflict regarding the business, we thought, wow, this isn't a very good thing. Well, guess what? As fate would have it, I went to law school, University of Akron. So after I was in my first year of law school, and my father happened to mention to Chuck, my son's in law school. Could he come in maybe and talk to you? Just find out what it's like to be an attorney. What do you all do? Would you talk to him? Chuck, of course, said sure. One thing led to another, and he gave me the opportunity to clerk for him after my first year of law school. And so the seeds were planted.
Wow.
As I look across the street at the arena, the seeds were planted at my father's dental lab.
So just going back briefly for one thing, your mother, your dad obviously married your mother. Her mother's name was?
Ruth Piazza.
Ruth Piazza. And was she a stay-at-home mom, or did she work?
She was mostly a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
When my father started the business, she did work part-time,
Mm-hmm.
but then as things progressed, then she was, for the most part, stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
So she spent a lot of time with us kids. I have a younger brother and a younger sister. So she was home with us. I remember I grew up on the south side on West Virginia Boulevard near Allen Park, and I lived there until 7th grade. And we moved out to Orchard Road in West Ellicott. And I went to Southwestern High School and graduated there in 1985. Then went to the University of Buffalo. I graduated there. And I went to the University of Akron. Now, what's interesting, in my class at the University of Akron, And these, I had classes, the first year, every class I had, these other individuals were there. Kevin Surwatka, Pete Piliteri,
No kidding.
Crandall Nyweed.
I'll be darned. That's amazing.
And so there were 4 of us there, all from Jamestown. And we ended up together at law school.
And back here?
And back here.
Wow. So you graduate from law school. Was there any question that you would come back?
It's interesting. I always wanted to come back. And so my first summer I clerked for Chuck, and oh, what a wonderful experience it was. And I left for law school. And I'm in my second year. I hadn't heard anything. Boy, am I coming back for the next summer? I don't know. And I see Pete Piliteri, and he told me, hey, so you're going to be back with Chuck next summer. I said, why? What did you hear? He had sent out letters to the attorneys in town. He got a letter back from Chuck saying, I'm going to have Jeff Piazza come back. So I found out from Pete Piliteri before I found out from Chuck. So then I worked the summer, my second summer, and towards the end, he made me an offer. He said, pass the bar, come back, and you can work with me, work for me. And I'd always wanted to come back here. I love this area. And in my third year of law school, I met my wife from Jamestown. My wife, Evelyn, she goes by Evie, and her family is here. Her parents were here. He has an identical twin sister that lives here. So I've been very fortunate that I could go to school, come back, work here, marry my wife who's from here. She's middle school teacher at Jefferson. So my roots are here in Chautauqua County and Jamestown.
So you get down to your second year, you passed the bar. Did you have any interest in taking the Ohio bar?
I did not. I spent that summer, and my roommates were Kevin Surwatka and Crandall Nyweed. And we studied, we took...
You're in Buffalo.
In Buffalo, and we spent weeks, and we took the prep course, and it was just, it was grueling. And of course, we didn't have the technology back then that you have today. I can remember we take the practice test, we'd write the essays, and we thought this was really advanced. We'd put it in a Federal Express envelope and we'd mail it out, and they would grade it, and they would tell us, you did this right, you did this wrong, and they would send it back, and that was high tech.
Yeah.
And we all passed the bar first time.
Yeah. Did you take Moreno, Gilbert? Do you remember what it was?
Peeper.
Oh.
Peeper, people pass. This is what he said. That's what the T-shirt they gave us.
Yeah, I remember those days vividly. Did you stay up in the dorms at Buffalo?
We rented a house, the three of us,
yeah.
And we studied hard.
Well, that's a moment in time you don't wish to repeat, but
no, once is enough.
So then you come back here. Did you know what Chuck? I assumed Chuck said, "Once you pass the bar, come on back." You did, and did he have a sense of what you would be doing?
Well, yes. My idea was I'd be doing whatever he wanted first and foremost, but you figure the summer before, I'm starting to look through title searches. Did a lot of real estate, did a lot of estate work. So I came back and started right in, did a lot of real estate work, wills, powers of attorney, things of that nature. And, but, it's different today, but back then you were almost like a family doctor, so to speak, like a general practitioner, and things are much more specialized today, but we did everything. So a client might come in and they needed a will. You help them with the sale or the purchase of their home. Then someone gets in trouble with the law. Who do they call? They call you. So as fate would have it, I end up doing a lot of the things that Chuck really, which was fine, because that's what I told him. You do everything you want to do, I'll do whatever you want me to do. And so of course I did a lot of real estate, did wills, the powers of attorney, things of that nature. But Chuck, and once again, it's interesting how it's like you drop a pebble in the water and the ripples go out. You don't know where they're going to end. Chuck, as you know, is very community minded. He always had it in his mind to help the community in many, many different ways. And he was what was called back then a law guardian. And the law guardians were assigned by the court to represent children in family court. And he told me, I'll never forget it, he said, look, this is something that I do, and I really like it. I really want to help children. I like to help the children. The rest of family court, he said, I really don't have a big interest in, but you know, you might want to try this and see if you like it. It's a good thing to help children. Well, it sounded like a good idea. So I got on the law guardian panel. And ended up spending a lot of time in family court. I ended up doing a lot of custody, visitation, abuse, neglect. But then I found myself more and more being assigned juvenile delinquency cases. And as you know, those are basically criminal cases in family court. Mm-hmm. And so I found myself, I was in family court a lot. And I found myself getting assignments out of county court. So now I had everything from drug cases to attempted murder. So I learned a lot. So then we would get a client, you know, my son's in trouble. I have a DWI, or et cetera, et cetera. Okay, then I'm going to take care of those matters. So I spent a lot of time doing that, and along with the real estate and the other matters. And then I did some civil litigation, not a whole lot, but if things, clients needed some help. Mm-hmm. And so, between the two of us, we could do a lot, and anything that we couldn't do, we would refer out. But I found myself more and more in family court, and I don't know if you recall this. It was back, it was in the early 2000s. There hadn't been a juvenile murder in Chautauqua County in years and years and years, and there was a juvenile murder case, and that was up in the Cassadaga area. And I got the call when they wanted me to represent one of the juveniles involved in that case. So that was something else, I have to tell you. It was very, very interesting on many levels. I gained a lot of experience, and I went through something that, and I'm glad it rarely happens, but that was something else. So
how did it impact you? I mean, you're a family man, you've got this, and all of a sudden you're representing somebody who's under age 18 in a life-altering, on all sides event. So how did you cope with that?
I remember when I got the call that day, and this has happened, we need you to come up to the jail.
Now, who did you get the call from? The court, the clerk or the judge say we're going to appoint you?
I was told I was going to be appointed.
Okay.
And there's only so much I could say, but I went up there, and I spent hours and hours. And the individual that I represented, as it turned out, there was someone over 18 that was really behind all of it. He was part of it, and it was interesting as things unfolded. He ended up helping the county make the case against the adult that was involved, and I spent hours up there. And I didn't get home till probably about 11, 12 o'clock that night. And we had to go through every minute of that whole incident. And so you say, how did it affect you? It was something else. It makes you go home and hug your family and realize there's a lot that goes on in this world.
Because it's certainly, you'd like to think that somehow you can turn off a switch. You got your professional life, and somehow when that ends, you go home. You got your personal life, but that's not real. That's not reality.
No. But you want to talk about how your personal life and your professional life can intertwine. So it's probably 1997. And you know this is a small town. And I'm in a trial up in Mayville Supreme Court, a divorce trial. And it's pretty contested. And when I still remember this, I'm cross-examining a witness. I had asked this witness, you know, is so-and-so a violent person? This was the new paramour of the woman involved. And she says, no, not violent. I said, really? Because, you know, we'd had testimony. Didn't this individual, didn't you show up and he was choking your friend? That's the mother. Yes. And then he was punching her. Yes. Put her head through a window. Yes. And then the father showed up to break up the fight. Isn't that correct? Yes. Then what happened? Oh, I don't work. Didn't he stab the father? Yes, he stabbed the father. So I asked my last question. So is this person violent? No. Okay, no more questions. I thought I did pretty good cross-examination. Now, this woman, she's expecting a child. During the trial, you know, you could tell she's expecting, and that was part of it because this individual who was violent was the father of this child. That was the reason we were getting into the other children. The father of the other children didn't want this person involved in their lives. Okay, so now, a few days later, my wife and I are expecting our first child. So we go down to Dr. Daniel's office. We're going to have our first sonogram. Of course, I'm happy. My wife is happy. And I really made a point to try to keep what happened at the office separate. I didn't come home and talk about it. And so we go into the doctor's office and we sit down in the waiting room, and I'm sitting there and with my wife. I'm excited. I'm going to see the sonogram. All of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see this woman. She's looking at me. She's not happy. And she goes, and that's the guy who made him take away my kids. And I hope his girlfriend leaves him and he never gets to see his child. And my wife's looking at me. I said, you're the girlfriend, don't worry. I said, I'll tell you all about it later. So in the middle of the waiting room, so you talk about how things can come together like that.
That's hilarious. Unbelievable, but all the gin joints in all the world.
You can't make it up.
So you were doing a lot of assigned work from family court. You were on the panel. You were on the
Yes.
Because my reflection, again, I'm significantly older than you. You're on,
Mm-hmm.
but there was no panel. It was before panel. You were just assigned. If you were an attorney, you were fair game.
Mm-hmm.
Which was turned out to be interesting, but at the same time probably not efficient and effective for everybody because some people had no clue, and I probably fit that category. But anyways, so then they had the panel, and that's what you were part of. You had to actually do a little training and be.
We had to do training,
Yeah.
and then spending so much time on the panel, then they would also assign me adults, mothers, fathers, grandparents on custody visitation cases, respondents on other matters. So really I ended up doing everything from juvenile murder case to adoptions. I did everything in family court one way or another, either assigned or retained.
Were you ever attracted to getting into the public side, the public defenders, the district attorney's office? Was that ever a draw for you?
I had actually some offers. I had an offer to join the district attorney's office, and I was at the point in my practice where my children were younger, and I, in the beginning, had to go to night court. It was pretty regular, and as things progressed, that became less and less of an occurrence. And I would have had to spend a lot of time at night, so it was nice to be asked, but I declined that offer. And then there was also some talk about, the public defender's office for a time too. But I was so fortunate where I was with Chuck, at that, then we became Hall and Piazza, so private practice was going very, very well.
We recently had a celebration of life with Paul Andrews, and you had told me a story offline. It's a good time to tell the story.
Oh, Paul Andrews, what a wonderful guy. And Paul, and they talked about it at his memorial, he was just a wealth of knowledge, but he was the type of an individual that he would teach you. He wouldn't take advantage. And I'm a young attorney, and I'm getting these criminal assignments, and he'd be on the other side. And I remember I would call him up, and we'd discuss the case. Paul, I really don't think this person did it. Really? Jeff, they all lie. You gotta be careful. Don't believe everything they tell you. And then he'd lay things out. One thing would lead to another. We'd usually resolve things. And then I remember one time, I go, I really think this one didn't do it, Paul, really. He said, do you want to see the video? And we'd laugh about that for years. And I'd see him years after that. And we would talk about that. But just what a wonderful guy, because he would fairness, justice. He wasn't just out to beat you over the head and win. And I actually did have a situation where I showed him this was really wrong to charge this person, and I laid it all out. He says, you're right. So just a wonderful guy. And I have nothing but fond memories of him. Learned a lot from him. And he'll certainly be missed. Wonderful, wonderful person.
Well, now that we're on to war stories, because clearly you were in court, which means you've got adversarial relationships going on here. Without, you're good at not disclosing names, but do you have a few stories, whether it deals with opposing counsel, some individuals who were involved, the judges perhaps?
Well, as a young attorney, I found myself involved in some protracted litigation with Art Bailey. Mm-hmm. And you remember Art.
Very well.
Art he was a very, very smart man, and he was a very experienced attorney, and learned a lot doing that. And I was fortunate enough, we talked about that at Paul's memorial service, how you could zealously advocate, but when you're done, there was the mutual respect, and you could go out and have a beer after. So, as I was coming up, there were a lot of attorneys in this town who were that way, who we could zealously advocate, but we had mutual respect, and we knew that as soon as we were done, we were still friends. We still respected each other. I was fortunate enough to practice before Judge Ward, mm-hmm. and learned a lot in county court. As a young attorney, it's interesting, when I was young and I'm watching these legal shows, LA Law, and I'll remember one day I'm in county court, and I thought about it because somebody brought up Bill Custer's name.
Yeah.
And I'm a young attorney, and you remember in county court, there was that row of seats, and you're waiting for your case to be called. Okay, so I'm young, I'm trying to just watch everything, learn everything I can learn. Out of the corner of my eye, I look, Bill Custer. He's got his hands behind his back, and he's walking, shuffling sort of sideways, and he's going down the line. And I'm looking, and as I look, he's getting close to me. He's got his hands behind his back, and in his hand is a baggie, and he must have picked some peas from his garden, and he was going down the line, and everyone was grabbing some peas. And I'm thinking, I never saw this in LA law. And he gets in front of me, and I look to grab a pea. And I'll never forget that. You can't make that up.
No. That's amazing. So we're going to at some point look at that composite. I'm going to, hopefully your memory bank will be tricked to tell a story or two on people. But did you ever find yourselves where either as the other side, you'd say something, you advocate something, and unlike the maternity issue story, but where the other side kind of came at you or just said that's wrong, and they used expletives or other things like that? Did you find yourself, because family court is emotional. I mean, you can't hide that. It's not hiding behind a business civil matter where it's did you pay it or didn't you pay it, or what things was the product good or not. This is personal.
Yeah, there were some emotional times, and it could get heated. And I remember I had a case in front of Judge Cass Willard, and I was cross-examining a witness, and it got pretty heated. And he got mad. He called me a jerk. I was pretty effective cross-examining. He says, "You're a jerk, Your Honor." He called me a jerk. Willard just, please don't call Mr. Piazza a jerk. Willard was a wonderful judge, but you talk about people getting worked up. But yeah, there were times where it did get emotional, and but if you look at the courts in our community, the court that affects your day-to-day life more than anything is family court. That's your relationship with your spouse, with your children, sometimes your parents. So there are a lot of emotions that can run high, that's for sure.
As you were being introduced to the world of family court, was Judge Hartley there at the time?
Judge Hartley was, yes.
And then Judge Clare?
Judge Clare. And Judge Cass was there. He was there a lot because, as you recall, he was a surrogate, but he still did a lot of family court trials. And really, he was a wonderful judge. And I don't know if you recall when we had his memorial service, that was one of the most well-attended that I'd seen.
Yeah, I do recall it. I ran it. Yeah. And in fact, I interviewed him a couple of times. It was quite amazing. At some point, you decide, and I was curious about the aha moment of running for family court. What were the circumstances where you either decided or somebody reached out to you and said, Jeff, what do you think?
Once again, things in my life have happened, and it's been like dominoes, and it's led to other things. And, like the Grateful Dead said, what a long, strange trip it's been.
Yeah.
And before I can talk about my decision to run for family court judge, I've got to go back years prior to even getting involved in politics. So I am, and it's you can't make this up, I'm a young attorney. I've only been practicing for a few years. I am in a bear camp in Canada and out in the middle of nowhere. And I'm up there, and there's a group of guys from this area up there too. I didn't know them, but we all knew one of the people involved, so we all show up. And one of these guys his name is Gary Carlson. He's the highway superintendent in the town of Kyneton. Mm-hmm. I lived in Jamestown at the time, and we hit it off. What a great guy. And he said, I think we're going to need a town attorney in Kyneton. You think you might be interested in that? Sure, I'd be interested in some municipal law. So one thing leads to another. I'm the town attorney in the town of Kyneton. And that went on for years, I don't know, 7 years perhaps.
You're living in Kyneton, right?
Not yet.
Okay.
So I'm in Jamestown.
All right.
And then I moved to Kyneton.
Okay.
So I'm town attorney. I'm in Kyneton where I live now. And that was very interesting. And we did everything from, when you're in a small community, I remember at one point we had a cell tower that was going to go up. Big controversy, litigation. Ended up going up to the appellate division. And there's a tower in Kyneton now. I advised the town board that the law is very clear. We have to approve this. We can have certain terms and conditions. And Paul Webb, when we look at his picture, I'll tell you about that because he was part of my research in that. And so I was town attorney, and then I don't know if it was 6, 7, 8 years, it got to the point I decided, my family's getting older. I'm there, at night sometimes. I thought, I think at this point I need to step back a little bit. All right, so I resigned, but it had a wonderful experience. I lived in the town, wonderful people. All right, that was nice. A few years later, as I'm sitting in the meetings in the town of Kyneton, I would look at it and I would say to myself, I would change certain things in how I would run these town meetings. They went on for a long time. Boy, I would do it like this, but that's just an exercise in your mind. A few years later, my friend, Gary Carlson, who became my friend back in Bear Camp, comes to my house. And the town supervisor had been there many years, well-liked, did a great job, but he was going to retire. Gary said, would you consider running for town supervisor? A lot of people would support you. So I ran. There was someone that ran against me, and I won. So now I'm town supervisor. So having been town attorney, I had a unique insight into how things worked. And at the time, then Paul Webb was the town attorney. And so then I'm town supervisor now. And I had the first term I had to run against an opponent, but after that, I was either crossing doors or no one ran. And it was a wonderful experience. I worked with wonderful people, but you hear. I remember I'm at a transfer station. The transfer station is where a lot of people gather, and there was one gentleman there, and he was mad. His neighbor's potbelly pig was coming into his yard and was eating his flowers, I'm going to kill that pig. I said, if you kill that pig, if I come by your house and I see the barbecue going, I'm going to know you killed that pig. Do not kill that pig. And I calmed them down, and he didn't kill the pig, and we were able to work it out. But that's just one example. When you're in a small town. And it was a really wonderful experience. So now I'm town supervisor. I'm a Republican. Now I get involved. I'm on the town committee. Before you know it, I'm the chairman of the town committee. Now I'm on the county committee. And now I'm helping, and I'm involved in other campaigns. When Greg Edwards ran for county executive, I remember at the Y, he and I and Bill Daly, we walk laps, and we would talk about what we're going to do on his campaign and how we're going to do this, that, and the other. I learned a lot. And then I became the parliamentarian for the county committee, helped rewrite the rules. So I spend all these years now. I'm in the county. I'm on the county committee. I'm doing what I can to, help Republican candidates. I'm learning a lot, and I'm in family court and I'm watching things. And there's a part of me, much as I did as town attorney, I would look and I think, I could do this. And I think I would like to do this. And talk about Paul Andrews. So now I'm still town attorney. I'm on the Republican committee, and Paul Andrews says to me, "Jeff, I got to talk to you." Sure. You know, Judge Ward is going to be running again. He's wondering, would you be the chairman of his campaign committee? Sure, I would. So now it was like I was taking a master's class in how to run a judicial campaign.
Yeah.
How fortunate for me to be in that situation. I learned a lot. And of course, he won. And it wasn't too long after that the second family court seat, there was only one, as you know, there was one family court judge in this county. And the state created a second position because there was just there was a backlog. There was just so many cases, and Judge Claire, nobody worked harder than her, but she was one person. So when they came up with that position, I decided to run. But the seeds of that were planted years ago in a bear camp, and then that was interesting because there was a new seat, so there were four people running. It was I was running, Mike Sullivan, Jim Spann, and Sally Jarzynski, and ended up winning 3 primaries. It was an interesting campaign. Very fortunate.
And well, with running against 4 people, you got 56.6% of the vote.
I did. I was more than all 3 of them combined, as I recall.
Wow! Congratulations.
Well,
Now, wait, I'm just curious. Did you have conversations with your wife saying, "This is a commitment, man, and it's a life changer. This is a life changer"?
I did. We discussed it, and I am very blessed. I have a wonderful wife, and she said, "Whatever you want to do," because if you think about it, it's a big step. I have a thriving private practice, and you're going outside of your comfort zone, and you're putting yourself in the spotlight. And she said, "Whatever you want to do, if you want to do this, I'm behind you 100%. And my parents, they went out, got hundreds and hundreds of signatures. My children put together hundreds, if not thousands, of signs.
I saw the picture. I remember seeing the family pictures you got. Remember
Yes.
the family pictures, yeah.
And marching in parades. And my son was younger at the time, and you don't even think you're going to have these conversations. And we'd be in the parades, we'd be throwing candy. And I can remember telling, "You do not throw the candy at your friend's head. You can't nail him in the head with a piece of candy." But I know it's your friend. No. So we had to have a lot of conversations about things you didn't think you would end up having to talk about. But they worked hard, my whole family. I was just very fortunate.
What was the surprise factor? All of a sudden, you're on the other side of the bench. You're wearing the black robes. I remember seeing you come to events in black all of a sudden. It's just no longer Jeff Piazza. It's your honor. It's your honor. I mean, people have to treat you, your title, but with a little different degree of respect because of your title. What was the surprise factor?
Well, I don't know if it was so much of a surprise, but to me, I took it very, very serious that I'd become a judge. And I wanted to just do my best to, when I ran, I said I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to make everyone, if you support me, I want you to be proud of how I conduct myself and how I do things. And I took it very seriously. And I guess what surprised me was that you have to be very, very conscious of everything, of how you conduct yourself. I was not on social media. I hadn't been on it very much before. Got rid of all that. And I had to, interesting enough, I had to talk to my family, talk to my children. You know, there's people that will come up to you. They might be angry with some of the things that I've done. There was one time, there were some judicial threats, but one time my daughter was threatened. And that was a surprise because, of course, law enforcement handled it very quickly. But it's interesting because you're under more scrutiny, and you have to understand that the way you conduct yourself is very important. And my family had to understand that too.
And now that you're the judge, did you ever have respondents? I forget. They're not use the term defendants, but
respondents
react to you, males, females. You know, did they kind of like, because you're a man, you treat me differently because I'm a woman? Do you get things like that?
There was, yes, there was one situation comes to my mind where I had ordered at the initial appearance this individual to have temporary custody to the mother. He would have supervised visitation, and then he went on to provide the court with a dissertation as to how New York State is a gender-neutral state, and just because I am a man, I should not be denied custody of my child or access to my child or visits with my child. And how dare you, because I'm a man, you limit me like this. Well, Mr. So-and-so, I want you to understand, the reason I've made this temporary order is because you are a registered sex offender and you committed X, Y, and Z. That kind of quieted him down. It was not based on any gender. So sometimes people would not be too happy with some of the orders that I made, but you have to protect children.
Sure. You, during your, it's 10 years, it's a 10-year
Yes.
term. Did you find that you had pretty much because you're a county court, family court in Chautauqua County.
Mm-hmm.
Was the state involved in all and overlooking your shoulders? Whether, I mean, obviously there's the right of appeal, there's always that, but just the administrative aspect of it. Did you find that the state was very active in?
Well, they had certain policies, they had certain criteria. They had what they called standards and goals. So there was a timeline from when, you know, a petition was filed and there was the first appearance and they wanted it done within so many. So they kept track of your standards and goals, and quarterly you would have to file these reports if you had any decisions on motions or any decisions on trials that were more than, I don't know if it was 60 days or 90 days. They wanted to know those decisions and why. And I never had any problem in that area. I made it a priority to make all my decisions promptly. But so they were involved, certainly, but it wasn't like they were micromanaging you day to day.
You did your 10 years, and then was there a moment where you sat down with your wife and said, enough's enough?
You know, we talked about it, and what's interesting is I love being a judge. I love working in family court, very blessed. But I got to a point where my term was coming to an end. I had to decide, am I going to run again? And do I want to do this for 10 more years? My father retired when he was 55. He's 84, and he's just had a ball. He's hunts and fishes, and he travels, and both my parents were very blessed. They're in good health. And for years, I can remember I'd come home. If I was lucky, maybe I'd to come home a little early to try to do some deer hunting. He's parked in my driveway, he's in my tree stand. When do I get to do that? And it came, towards the end of my term, and I had to really decide, do I want to run again? And I had to take into account a few things. What a lot of people probably don't understand is I have people that work for me. I had a secretary, Pete Johnson, who's now the family court judge. He was my court attorney. Mm-hmm. So if I run again, and I believe from what I understood, I would have been unopposed, but who knows? I still think I would have won if I ran. But if I would have run, I know I didn't want to do it for 10 more years, and it'll work 10 more years. So if I did it 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and then you stop in the middle of the term, they lose their jobs until there's a new judge. That wouldn't be fair to them. And also, that I even wanted to do it 5 more years. I didn't know that I wanted to even work 5 more years, and I thought to myself, how do I ask the people of Chautauqua County to elect me again when I know in my heart I'm not going to be here that long?
Right.
And I really did not feel right about it. So I didn't feel right about running if I wasn't going to serve my whole term, or at least half. Didn't feel right about putting the individuals that worked for me in a position where they have no job. So I thought it was best to let everyone know I'm not going to run. And it was the perfect time because my term was up. There was a chance for someone else to fill that seat. And I think to me, just personally, that was the way I decided I wanted to end my career. And I wanted to allow for that seat to be filled in the natural course. So I spoke to my wife and my family, and my wife always supports me. I'm very blessed. So came to that decision.
Now, you said it was the end of your career. Did you give any thoughts about going into private practice?
There were some thoughts, and I had some offers, but at this point, it's not something that I'm really contemplating. So many things I want to do. I want to travel. My first year retirement, I've just finished my first year. So 2025, I think I've been to Florida 4 or 5 times. I went to Nashville, went to Las Vegas, and then the best thing I did last year, I went to Africa, went on a 10-day safari in Zimbabwe. And I enjoyed it. Spent the summer on the lake. And this year I got more things planned. Already planning going back to Africa, hopefully in 2027. So at this point, I'm on the board of the WCA Foundation, and I'm enjoying that. So I'm not saying there's not other things I would do, but right now, it's interesting. You know this. It's hard to dip your toe in and to only do it halfway. And, you're going to do it you're going to come in just a couple days a week. I know it's not going to do that because you've got to go to court on this day. So-and-so needs this, so-and-so needs that. And at this point, that's not something that I wanted to, I wanted to be retired and have some fun.
We're also going down memory lane a little bit here. And if you want to just slide that composite over.
Okay.
And as you look at it, Your Honor, and if there's something like you look at somebody and say, let me tell you about this person, you can feel free to do so.
Oh boy, I am looking here. Look at how young everyone was. Look at that hair I had.
I was noticing that this morning.
Oh boy, go across the top here. Paul Andrews, we talked about him. Talked about Art. Dalton Burgett.
Phil Calla, your paths must have crossed with Phil.
Oh, Phil Calla.
Give me your best Phil Calla story.
Oh, okay. Best Phil Calla story. Look at Phil, how he looks. He is just accessorized. He dresses beautifully. not a hair out of place. So I'm an attorney, and I'm thinking, you know what, I'm all right, I'm pretty good, pretty happy with myself. My mother gets called for jury duty. Phil Calla is one of the attorneys in one of the local courts. And how'd it go, Mom? Oh, this attorney Phil Calla comes in, and my name goes, are you related to Jeff Piazza? And I tell him I'm your mother. Oh, Jeff's one of the best attorneys around. He's saying so many nice things about you. Oh, okay, that's nice. And then she hits me with the gut punch. Why can't you dress nice like Phil Calla? And I'll never forget that. Well, thanks, Phil. You know, I was pretty good. My mother thought I was pretty good till she met you. Yeah. Why can't you dress nice like Phil Calla? Yeah, yeah. But a fine attorney, great guy.
Did you have a similar kind of relationship with, I always think of Calla and Lamacuso. Did John, was he, before he became a judge, did you practice past with him?
I had more experience with Judge Lamacuso when he was on the bench, because I was just coming up, and I think I'd only been an attorney maybe a year or two. Well, I remember him going door to door, knocking on my door when I lived in Jamestown.
There you go.
But I spent a lot of time in city court with him. Great guy. Judge Alessi was there when I first started. There's Judge Cass when he was an attorney.
Yep.
I remember crossing paths with him. There's Judge Claire, Chuck D'Angelo, Tom Dory. All three of those wonderful people. I remember when Judge Claire was court attorney for Judge DeRossi.
Oh my God, yeah.
So I remember being in chambers, having her go over things. Chuck D'Angelo. I was involved with Chuck D'Angelo and Ed Fagan in a trial, and I was the law guardian. So who's going to win, the immovable object or the unstoppable force? And that was quite an experience. Tom Dory, wonderful guy, family court. He worked for the Department of Social Services, and I dealt with him a lot in family court as an attorney, and just wonderful guy, wealth of knowledge. Just can't say enough about him. There's the Duncansons, and Mark and Bill Jr., wonderful. But Bill Sr., I don't know, you probably know this about him, but he was in the Hotel Jamestown, mm-hmm. and I got to know him, and somehow or another, I don't know how we connected, but we connected on a level. He would tell me about some of his war experiences in the Pacific. Mm-hmm. My gosh, he saw a lot, did a lot, and I didn't know that at first till I got to know him. And interesting. Greg Edwards, just what a great guy. We were attorneys together, and as I said, I remember when he ran for county executive, being involved in his campaign, and he's a good friend to this day. Warren Erickson. Weeks and Erickson, they merged with our firm.
Oh, did they? With
yeah.
Stan Weeks and Warren? Yeah.
Yes. So I got to know Warren. Richard Fessenden, wonderful guy. Marilyn, wonderful. Let me look here.
I forget, you guys were in the Hotel Jamestown.
Yes.
That's where your offices were, like on the 6th floor or something like
on
that?
The 6th floor.
Same floor as Robert Jackson way back when, just want you to know that.
Well, you talk about Robert Jackson and Stanley Weeks and other interesting fellow. And I love history. Mm-hmm. And any chance I can talk to anyone about history, especially if you lived it. And I remember getting to know Stan. And he won the Community Service Award one year. And I gave the introduction for him. So I interviewed him for a couple hours, much like you're interviewing me. I didn't do as fine a job as you're doing, but spent a lot of time with him. And he's a young man. He was telling me, he was on an island in the Pacific, manning the big gun. Boat would come in. If they didn't give him the right signal or passcode, he could start shooting at them. We had a lot of fun talking about history. But what struck me is he went to school, so he was in Washington, D.C., and he'd go hang out with Robert H. Jackson. You know all this, but me, a young attorney, and I'm listening to this, and I'm thinking, this is great. I'm talking to someone really that lived history.
One step removed, yeah.
Just a wonderful guy, true gentleman. Lyle Hoydu, Mary Hoydu, and there's Chuck. Lyle and Mary, two wonderful attorneys, wonderful people. Just between the two of them, they're two of the smartest people around,
Yeah.
really. I can remember if I would have a case with Mary once in a while, and I would say, listen, you've got to tie half your brain behind your back. Give me a fair shot, Mary. Marty. You know what a great guy Marty is. Kevin. Now Kevin, I'm sure you recall it, Kevin would be the public defender, then Richard would be the public defender, but as a young attorney, I would have some cases, and I remember when I started getting assigned counsel cases, he was a wealth of knowledge, and it was always someone that would be willing to take the time to teach you. Rob Liebers, great guy. I was just so sad when he passed. Bob Nieto, wonderful guy. George Panabianco, Judge Panabianco.
Yep.
There's you. Cindy. I worked with Cindy. She was corporate counsel for Bush Industries, right?
Yep.
And we were involved in a transaction with them, and she's nicer than you.
Oh, absolutely, there's no question.
Pete Piliteri. Now Pete, it's interesting because we went to grade school together.
No kidding.
And he's going to hate this, but I'm telling the story. I don't care, because it's haunted him for years. And so then I moved to Southwestern, and he was at Jamestown, and we played football. And I broke his leg during a game, and just followed him, because I've embellished it, of course.
Of course, yeah, of course.
And through the years, and I'd see him in college, and went to UB together, and it invariably would come up. You remember when I broke your leg? You really cried a lot. and I had and we went to law school. And then we'd be in a pretrial or something, and I'd find a way I hope Pete doesn't have a flashback to when I broke his leg. I want him to be able to really participate in this conference without being afraid. Nothing's going to happen, Pete. It's okay. And I went on and on and on. And I had a whole story about how his mother came out in the field and hit me with her purse, and of course exaggerated.
Sure, of course.
And then years later, Chuck and I, we were at one of the funeral homes. Someone had passed away, and we're waiting. Somehow the topic of football comes up. And then Chuck goes, yeah, didn't you break Pete Piliteri's leg? Son, this lady turns around. She looks up at me. She goes, do you know who I am? I said, yeah. I said, you hit me with your purse when I broke your son's leg. And I saw Pete. He goes, you had to tell my mother that story. And then as time went on, Pete's great. My children went to Montessori school, and Pete's sister sent her children there. Mm-hmm. So my son is little, and Pete's nephew. So my son, my dad broke your uncle's leg. So it's gone on and on. Pete's a great guy, great attorney. And I know I'm missing people here, but Dale Robbins, great guy, another attorney that would always help you, he would teach you, and he was my treasurer when I ran, just a wealth of knowledge. Neil Robinson was an ADA when I was coming up, and he was another one that would really take the time to teach you. Yeah, Bob Schnitzler, he spent a lot of time in family court, helped a lot of children, really did. Kevin Serwatka, went to law school together, practiced together. He was with Doug Spoto. Rick Sotier, spent a lot of time in family court with Rick Sotier. Spent a lot of time with Doug Spoto, Lucian Ledestro, and Chuck Hall. We spent many a lunch down at Lissandro's and solving the world's problems. And I would just sit back and I would just watch as Lucian would get Doug wound up, or Doug would get Lucian wound up.
Vice versa, yeah, too.
And but learned a lot. Learned a lot.
Theater. That was complete theater. I don't know how many times all of us, the younger attorneys, went down there just to watch the show at Los Angeles.
And Doug was in the Hotel Jamestown. He was on the mezzanine. And he had really wonderful law library. I don't know if you remember that. It was more extensive than ours. And so I'd go down there. And if I was lucky, he'd see me. And it was always start with, "What are you doing?" And I'd tell him what I'm looking at. "Why you always got to use my library? Why don't you get more books? I like your library better." And then eventually, he'd take an interest in what I was looking up.
Yeah.
Look up this, look up that. And before you know it, I'm learning. He would always teach you a lot too. And his bark was worse than his bite.
Oh, no question. Is there a Jeff Piazza legacy in all of this? As your family's looking at this, you've just gone down memory lane, you're just, all these lawyers you met, you're in the law, you're a part of the law, you're part of the history of the law. Certainly being a judge for 10 years and everything else. Is there kind of something that you'd like to kind of articulate and say, well, my hope was this?
Well, I try to work hard. I try to treat people with kindness and respect. Try to, when I was an attorney, advocate for them to the best of my ability. Chuck, I couldn't have had a better partner, a better mentor. Learned so much from him, not just how to practice law, but just how to be a good person. So I tried to work hard. I tried to do my best for my clients as a judge. I tried to be fair, try to treat everyone with kindness and respect. And I think I can look back, and I've been very blessed. Been very blessed with this career, and growing up in this community, coming back, working in this community. Yeah, it's been quite a journey. It's been quite a journey. And I look back and the memories come back. Things are so different now. COVID changed so much. And we're never going to go back to the way it was. And that's a whole nother situation when COVID, they closed the courts. I'm in my dining room and I'm conducting my calendar in my dining room in my robe. My wife's upstairs teaching school. My daughter's in her room working remotely. My son's in his room taking classes at St. Bonaventure. And that's how it was for months. But like anything else, it passed. Everyone pulled together. But I look at this picture. Really, we were very fortunate. We were, and to this day, I'll still say it. We really have a a lot of fine attorneys. It's really, it's the bar, even though many are gone, retired, some passed away, this is really a good community. This is it's a nice place to practice law.
Well, you're a nice person to have practiced law with all of us,
Well,
so thank you.
Appreciate it. It's been my pleasure. It's been an honor to practice law and to been a judge for 10 years, and I'm very blessed.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate taking the time.
Thank you.